Hi, welcome to another edition of Education Matters. I'm Ray Pinney. I'll be your host. Today I have Dr. Randy Solomon from the Sustainable New Jersey for Schools, and we'll be talking about sustainability in our schools. But if you have any questions, you're on Facebook, just put it in the chat room and they'll pass it on to me. If you like these programs, please subscribe to the buttons at the bottom. So, Randy, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm great.
Okay, I want to talk about sustainability, but what is Sustainable Jersey for Schools, and how did they get started?
It's a program that was started by School Boards Association and also NJEA and a couple of state agencies that was trying to take advantage of what's wonderful about New Jersey and what can be problematic, which is that we have so many small governments, which gives us local control, but it means that for a lot of issues, whether it's energy and climate and fleets and so many things, there's not a lot of capacity at the local level to be on top of all these different issues. It doesn't make sense for every school to be an expert on solar or energy efficiency. And so in a lot of cases, they struggle to move forward, but there's a lot of goodwill. There's a lot of teachers, parents, administrators that want to care about the future, and that's what sustainability is really about. And want to take action, but don't know what to do. So we all got together and basically said, without having to pass some massive bill in the legislature or have a top-down state agency program, let's try to build something that's ours, that's bottom up, but also has some of the institutional heft, some of the resources and support that can actually help schools make progress, but has some of the nimbleness of a nonprofit, and really understands how schools work and the practical realities of what schools are facing, and to try to address some of these issues, but also just to make life better, make education better for schools.
And you've been around for 10 years now. This is your 10th year, right?
This is our 10-year anniversary for the schools program. There was a municipal program, Cities and Towns, that was started 5 years before that.
I was shocked. I looked at a map of how many schools are participating throughout the state of New Jersey. It's quite a few.
There's quite a few. And by the way, you also asked what is Sustainable Jersey. So I feel like the second part of that answer is to sort of say a little bit about what we do. So we have a certification program. I think everyone knows Sustainable Jersey is a certification program. We have about 100 specific things that a school can implement. The curricular activities, the upgrades to the buildings, the programs that they might do. And if they implement enough of those, they can get, each one has a point value and a certification. If they implement them and prove it, they can get certified at different points. And then that was how we started, but we quickly realized that we had sucked up all the bandwidth for implementation that we can get with goodwill and bubble gum and duct tape, at the local level. So we realized that they need help. School officials, teachers are not sitting around waiting for us to think of new things for them to do with all their free time and free money that they don't have. So we give out grants, now actually quite a significant number of grants. It grows every year. And we give out in-depth technical assistance to help schools figure out how to do things, specifically focused on energy and fleets and facilities, but increasingly in other areas too.
Yeah, for those board members, they have a nice ceremony, a workshop, and I was actually kind of amazed at the ideas that I think the teachers and the principals and the administrators came up with. We talked about going green, but they were also saving green, and we'll get into that. But a lot of this is bottom up. You're just fostering good ideas at the local level, basically.
Right. And right now, you asked how many are participating. 67% of all school districts are in the program, which means the school board passed a resolution and they appointed a person from the administration to be the liaison. And then it's pretty flexible. The one thing you have to do is you have to have some kind of a green team, a body that's created by the school board that coordinates the activities for sustainability and for Sustainable Jersey. And then currently there's 375 schools. It's the schools, not the districts, that get certified. Because some things the schools themselves have to do. So the district has to sign up, and then the school has to do a lot of the work. It's a split, actually. So there's 375 schools that are currently certified, so
Let me just go through some of the ways that you're doing sustainability. And I think sustainability has a different definition for a lot of different people. It might mean recycling to some, energy saving to others, it might mean everything. Both go to energy savings, because this is where a lot of districts went, and it's saving tax dollars.
yeah. And when you think about how did we achieve those numbers of participation, like 67% of all school districts with no law, no requirement. I mean, you can pass a law and make something 100% mandatory, and you're not going to get 67% of school districts to actually do it in many cases. So the reason we were able to get that level of participation, and these schools, by the way, are implementing thousands of discrete actions from our list of best practices and documenting it as part of our certification program. So there's a really wide array of stuff that's happening. They're doing it because it's practical. They're doing it because the things that are in our program make sense. To be honest, there's a few actions that are older and probably are dogs at this point, but for the most part, they are heavily researched, updated constantly, pointing you to the latest incentives and resources. They're saving you money, they're saving you time, they're improving education, health, in the school district, and helping you solve problems that you've got. And a big part of that is because we're very much of the schools, it's very bottom up. And we also, it's not just Sustainable Jersey that's thinking of the actions, the actions are the things to do. We do that through task forces that are made up of the teachers, state agency folks, and other folks. And then we've got a certification standards committee, currently chaired by Michael Salvatore, former superintendent of the year for Long Branch, right? But
I know Mike well.
So, and they because of them, they keep it real. You put a bunch of nonprofit do-gooder types like me in a room with some state agency folks who have money or whatever, and we'll come up with all kinds of crazy ideas. And then people like Mike, when we sort of engage to our process, they'll dope slap us and say, we will never in a million years do that. And here's why. But that's the point of departure. And then we try to figure out, okay, what can you do? And then also, what resources do you need to implement?
Is where theory meets practice.
Right. And it's also where the resources to help, what's the bottleneck? And energy efficiency, you mentioned, is a good one.
And that means saving money maybe in fuel costs for heating schools or lights or busing, transportation, or everything?
Well, it's mostly buildings, but now it's also the fleets as well. In terms of buildings, there are tremendous resources and incentives available mostly from the state to pay for building energy efficiency, but also for things like solar and other things. You can go on and on. And many schools don't take advantage of it. It's shocking to me. If you look at all local governments across the state, including municipalities, about 50% of them have not taken advantage of any of the state's clean energy resources. And these are resources that can pay 70 to 80% of the cost of doing building efficiency upgrades on the heating, as you said, the heating system, the lighting, the controls, insulation, and these programs pay for themselves. They'll save, you can save just on energy efficiency measures, easily 20-30% right off the bat. Most of that gets paid for. Your return on investment is a couple of years. So you're talking about, a relatively small school district can, easily be saving $500,000 a year, year over year, and have most of that paid for with subsidies. New York School District, just on the other end of the scale, they did a major energy efficiency set of upgrades, and through sort of the ESIP process, the state financing program, didn't have to pay for a lot of it, and they're saving $120 million. Wow. So it's real money.
That's real money.
Real money.
I think there's also an educational benefit to all this too, because it helps this is a lot of science and a lot of curriculum that we touch on. I see gardening programs, and I see a lot of involvement, not just the kids, but sometimes the parents are involved in
Yeah.
in those programs. Can you just go over some of those programs too?
Sure, and some of the background for that too is that, a lot of these things could involve students, and they don't. The actual programs that you're running in your community or in your school, the administration will just do it, or, the custodial will just do it. But if you involve kids, there's a big opportunity to help them absorb some technical knowledge, which can contribute directly to the student learning standards, and can be integrated into the curriculum, but also helps them absorb some of the broader lessons about sustainability. So, again, just as an aside, but when we think about things like climate change or other sustainability issues, it can be pretty heavy, and it can be depressing for a student. And also, what are we supposed to do about it? It can be disempowering. But if you combine those lessons with direct action that they can take, where they can see the difference that's being made, it can have a huge impact. I'll give you one example. We have a program called Trees for Schools, where with funding that comes from the state, we give out grants. We just announced another $4.5 million worth of grants for tree planting in schools. That tree planting in schools is a lot harder than you think, especially in more developed areas where there's a lot of pavement, a lot of blacktop. So you have to figure out, you have to do a plan. So we give them the technical assistance to help them figure out the plan, and then we pay for the trees, and also for the maintenance. And then we created a curricular resource that enables students to understand the benefits of trees in terms of cleaning the air, cooling the buildings, how much energy is going to be saved, how much greenhouse gas emissions and carbon is going to be sequestered and sucked out of the air and stored by those trees, and how to calculate that. So there's a science lesson there. And then they can use the computer tools that are available to identify where the trees should go in the community. So now the school is planting the trees, but they're having the kids follow along, measuring the tree growth, tracking the carbon. So they feel empowered. They recognize that there are things that can be done to solve these problems. And it's paired with a program where we're giving the schools the money and the technical assistance to do something that they wanted to do. So that's when everything is firing on all cylinders.
There's other things that it's also about making the schools like a healthier environment too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. There's a lot of things in here that deal with health, including anti-idling and getting sort of polluting diesel school buses, swapped out for electric. There's also indoor air quality, managing hazardous materials, and then physical activity, getting things outside. So there are actions and there's guidance on all of those things. And then one of the things that we're really trying to tackle is school cafeterias and food service. It's as you know, it's a very regulated environment, and it's hard to be creative. But I think most people who understand school cafeterias and food service, there's points of frustration that people can have with it. A lot of food is wasted. It's not necessarily the healthiest food that's getting served. Sometimes it's not the fault of the food service vendors. There's federal rules. You're taking money for free to reduce lunch. So we've been running. We have actions, and we've been running programs and pilots to experiment with what could really be done to address those problems. And just as one example, we did pilot food waste reduction pilots in three schools, and we bought them food waste composters, and we gave them technical assistance on how to do things like share tables, where instead of they try to divert some of the food to a food bank or to share with other students instead of just throwing it out. But the bottom line is, on average, these three schools were able to divert 95% of the food waste that they were previously creating out of the waste stream. About 40% of that food was food they just didn't have to buy anymore because it just didn't get wasted. And then the rest of it was going to the composter and being composted on site, so they didn't have to pay for the waste disposal. Just tremendous results. But schools need guidance. They need a little grant. They need someone to hold their hands. You can tell.
I would imagine you probably need a champion in each building that's gonna kind of take it. I know you said there's a green team, but you probably need that champion or two that says, this is my program, I love this stuff. Let me take the lead, and the principal says, great. Or it could be the principal too, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna vary where the leadership comes from. I mean, a lot of times the school and the school board and the principal all agree that this is good, and different people will be in charge of different elements of it. Sometimes it'll just be like one teacher, the one that runs the environmental club or something, that is really the lead, and really what they need from the principal or the super is just to say yes, you know, but it comes from all types. You know, sometimes you get a superintendent like Dr. Salvatore, who is just a rock star and really gets it and really can reform the culture, save millions of dollars, increase educational standards, all under the and outcomes all under the banner of sustainability.
Yes, so it's not just about recycling or something like that.
Right.
I just want to go back to the healthier school, because there's a benefit to that. Because I've seen videos of the help, getting kids to move, which may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal. And having healthier indoor quality, that probably will affect the absenteeism of students. They're in the building more often, which is good. We seek time is important, and it's good for the curriculum and student achievement, but also probably the staff has less absenteeism and they're healthier. So it's kind of it may not be a true economic, but it's a educational benefit.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're going to be spending all the money to have these buildings and bring all these people into them and staff them up, if you can squeeze out 5% efficiencies out of them by just some better practices or some more intelligent building design, why would you not do that?
Are there any other things that you look at? You mentioned electric buses that they get grants and things in that area. Is there any other alternative energy, solar energy, or anything else that they can do?
Yes, and I would really recommend people take advantage of Sustainable Jersey's technical assistance. So, and we're only scratching the surface, and I think solar panels are an example. There's new tax incentives. Schools don't pay taxes, but actually you can get a payment from the IRS. It's a thing called direct pay. But if you do a solar panel on your school, if you're the private entities were able to get tax breaks, but since schools don't pay taxes, the tax breaks they wouldn't get them. So most schools that have done solar have done what's called like a power purchase agreement, where they lease out the roof, or they allow the company to come and put the panels on, and then they buy the energy at a discounted rate, but somebody else owns the panels. That's all changed. Now the schools can actually recoup 50-60% of those costs directly from the IRS. They call it a tax benefit, but it's not. It's just a payment from the IRS. It's completely changed the financing of what's doable and what's feasible and what's profitable for on-site solar, on-site renewable energy. Many schools know about it, many don't. And we're kind of taking the lead to educate schools and help them take advantage of it. So that's just one example, and there's so many. And there's so many that I don't expect school districts, especially smaller school districts or even mid-sized school districts, to be able to be on top of all these things, and they keep changing. So we can do that. And so we don't just have a certification program. We have direct technical assistance where we will help you get oriented towards the different opportunities. What are your needs and what opportunities match those needs? What's practical for you to do? And then we'll help you get the applications out the door and scope out the projects on all these different issues, whether it's food or trees or on-site renewables or updating your fleet or building energy efficiency or how to integrate sustainability into the curriculum, how to satisfy the requirements of the state's new climate change education, student learning standards, or on numerous issues. We can help. We can help you get oriented. The actions themselves will help you get oriented, but people on our staff are there to help you, because we recognize that, again, schools, the thing that is most important and the thing that they have the least of is capacity to do something new. capacity to do anything, which means they're just doing the thing, barely doing the things they have to do. So if we're asking them to do something new, even if it saves money, even if it increases health, even if it's proven to work and your neighbor did it, that doesn't mean you've got the capacity to do it. We recognize that, and so we're very attuned to trying to help.
Yeah, I would think, I'm not a scientist, but on the solar energy, most schools are kind of isolated and they have a lot of, even though you're planting trees,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of trees around.
Right.
So you would think that would be a way that, if you could find a way to do it.
A lot of
it
big
does help.
roofs, a lot of roofs.
Yes,
A lot of
there
roofs.
is.
Yeah.
Go through your certifications again. You have different levels.
Mm-hmm.
How do you judge, what's the criteria and how
Yeah.
does someone participate in that?
So step one is to register, which requires a resolution from the school board, and you have to appoint someone to be the formal point of contact or liaison. And then you're on the map, and you sort of have an account. It's all free, by the way. There's no charge. We're funded by School Boards Association and by the state and by foundations, so it's all, we have no dog in the fight. Like, you do these things or you don't, we don't make more money. Just so people know, our recommendations are completely neutral and completely based on what we think makes the most sense for schools to do. So you register, and then you have to create a green team. And then you can implement actions, and they come in different categories, and they're worth point value. And then there's a bronze level of certification for scoring 150 points. The point values of the actions range from 5 points to 50 at the top end. So getting to 150 points is not a Herculean task. Then silver certification is 350 points, which
This is all laid out.
it's all on our website. It's all laid out. And then again, if feel free to call us. And I'd say like half of our technical assistance calls are like someone reading the website to someone who's actually looking at the website. But that's fine. We're happy to do it because it's a wall of words and it's hard to orient towards what you need to find. So there's a silver certification. We also have a digital schools certification, which one of the things we would like to do in the future is buff up the parts of it that deal with digital citizenship, which is a huge emerging issue.
Yeah, we'll just touch on that for a few minutes. Talk about what you guys are looking at down the future of digital citizenship, because I think that is probably is an important issue.
Yeah. So why would Sustainable Jersey care about digital citizenship? It has to do with our definition of sustainability. Sustainability is not the environment. We care about jobs. We care about economic development. We care about society. We care about the future. Sustainability is literally, let's think about the issues that, if you bring a bunch of people in a room together and say, what are you concerned about? Like, what are the issues that, if we're not on top of this issue, in 10, 20 years, like, these have the capacity to really have significant disruption to our lives. And obviously, the way that we and our kids, so I've got a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and seeing how just in their lifetimes they have their lives completely go online, the way that they are fed information. They spend a lot of time on TikTok and Instagram. So now the new, I can't even get them to watch a 30-minute sitcom. For them, that's too much attention span, right? And so they're spending hours of their lives, and it's their main source of information and culture, scrolling in this 30-second, 15-second video format, being fed information by algorithms that are really just trying to, they've got no bias for what's true, what's scientific, what's moral, only just what gets clicked on. So it's essentially the worst in us, right? And so we're not equipped. Our kids are not equipped. Our schools are not equipped. Parents are not equipped to control that. Parental control has been a big issue, in the last national election and a lot of other things. But I think parents ought to be more freaked out when we talk about parental control of the fact that there's this, hidden hand of these algorithms that is really shaping our minds of our kids, and we don't have any control over it.
Is that a separate area of sustainable
Well, we have a digital schools program.
Yeah, that was that whole.
Well, it's called Digital Schools, and you can actually get a digital schools certification. And it does deal with digital citizenship, but it is not, to be honest, it's not up to speed enough in terms of like us catching up, all of us catching up to where AI is, where
Technology
TikTok is,
moving
moving so
too
fast. So we need to catch up, and it's something that we need to address. And from my perspective, when we look at like climate change, as one example, climate change is a scientific fact. We know it's a fact because two people might have an argument, it's happening, it's not happening. Okay, well, how do we know? How do we know if it's happening around? Let's do an experiment, right? Let's go, you come up with your theory and then we'll test it. And we'll really look at it. And if the testing, and the rigors determines that it's real, then we say, okay, it's real. On TikTok, that's not happening, right? You're getting all kinds of misinformation, things just aren't true. And there's no filter, there's nobody there that's saying, let's test this. And I think kids need to understand that. And so part of what we need to build into the curriculum is really educating them. It's basically civics. It's the new form of civics education. And we need to teach them about how to find and understand what's true and what's not true. How do you evaluate a claim? And also understanding what the algorithm is based on. What is this algorithm feeding you information based on? It's just based on how many people click on it. So if it's sensational and incorrect, but it tickles your fancy and people click on it, all of a sudden that's true because it's everywhere. It's going to proliferate. So how do we just,
So is that something, that's more down the future?
that's in the future. That's something we would like to work on.
Because you were at first, I think in that program, trying to encourage people to get the technology, to use the technology, get it into the classroom for the kids. Now the technology is advanced so fast.
It's ubiquitous, right? I mean, pre-COVID, we were trying to get schools to get to one-to-one devices for students, so that every student could have access to a computer. Way past that. And I don't think we've ever seen a more rapid transformation in terms of what we would consider the state of the art than we have sort of in digital schools and digital living.
Okay, just one last thing. You talked about the certification. Maybe 67%, if I'm correct, are involved in some fashion.
Yeah.
If you're one of the other 33%, you're kind of interested that, how do we, I want to look at the energy savings. I want to look at the food waste. So I want to, or digital citizenship. Where do I go? And how do I get involved?
You can go to our website, and on our website, you can email us or call us. We'll answer the phone. And, we have someone there to just explain the program to you and walk you through it. I think, again, one of the reasons why it's successful is there's a lot of hand-holding. There's a lot of human beings that will talk to you and help you.
And how many staff members are involved in this? Is it just like you and 2 people, or is there?
There was when we started, but now the staff, I think, including sort of vacant positions that we're hiring for, is 27.
So you've come a long way in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, 15 years, because we're going all the way back to when it was a twinkle in our eye.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you, Randy, for joining me. And if you're interested, we'll have it up. Their website. It's easy to find.
What's the website? What is it?
Easy to maneuver.
Yeah.
So,
sustainablejerseyschools.com.
Okay. I'd like to thank you. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Education Matters.